Imagine being at the very top of the fashion world. Your face is on magazine covers across the globe. The world's biggest designers want to work with you. Millions of people admire you. And yet, despite having everything most people dream of, you still feel that your life's purpose lies somewhere else. For many, fame becomes the destination. But for one woman, it was only the beginning. This is the remarkable story of Christy Turlington, a woman who became one of the most famous supermodels in history and then used her influence to make a real difference in the world. Her story isn't just about beauty, it's about purpose, it's about compassion, and it's about discovering that the greatest success in life often has nothing to do with fame at all. Long before the flashing cameras and international recognition, Christy Turlington was simply a young girl growing up in California. Born on January 2nd, 1969, in Walnut Creek, California, Christy spent her childhood far away from the glamorous world she would later dominate. She loved nature, she loved animals, and most of all, she loved horses. Horseback riding became a huge part of her life. While many teenagers spent weekends at shopping malls or parties, Christy could often be found riding horses for hours. The quiet connection she felt with animals gave her a sense of peace. Fashion wasn't even part of her plans. She never dreamed of becoming a celebrity. She never imagined seeing her face on billboards around the world. At the time, she was simply enjoying life as a normal teenager. But sometimes the future arrives when we're least expecting it. At just 14 years old, Christy's life took an unexpected turn. While riding horses in Miami, she was noticed by a photographer. There was something different about her. She possessed a natural elegance that couldn't be taught. She didn't try to stand out, she simply did. Soon, modeling opportunities started appearing. At first, it seemed exciting. A few photo shoots, some extra income, a chance to experience something new. But nobody could have predicted what would happen next. What began as a small opportunity quickly evolved into a serious career. The fashion industry had discovered a future star. Yet even as her modeling work increased, Christy remained focused on her education. She understood something important at a very young age. Beauty might create opportunities, but intelligence would create possibilities. That mindset separated her from many others in the industry. The 1980s fashion world was fiercely competitive. Thousands of young women dreamed of becoming successful models. Only a handful would ever achieve global recognition. Christy's rise wasn't based on controversy. It wasn't driven by headlines or scandals. Instead, it came from professionalism, discipline, and consistency. Photographers admired her ability to work naturally in front of the camera. Designers loved her elegance. Fashion editors appreciated her reliability. With every assignment, her reputation grew. Soon, she was appearing in major advertising campaigns. Then came the magazine covers, one after another, around the world. The young girl who once spent her days riding horses was becoming one of fashion's brightest stars. But the biggest chapter of her career was still ahead. The early 1990s changed fashion forever. Models were no longer simply people who displayed clothing. They became celebrities. They became brands. They became global icons. This was the birth of the supermodel era, and Christy Turlington stood at its center. Alongside legendary figures such as Naomi Campbell, Linda Evangelista, Cindy Crawford, and Claudia Schiffer, Christy became part of an elite group that dominated the fashion world. Together, they transformed modeling into a cultural phenomenon. Their influence extended beyond fashion magazines. They appeared on television. They influenced beauty trends. They became household names. For millions of people, these women represented glamour, success, and confidence. And among them, Christy stood out for her calm presence and timeless elegance. Yet beneath all the success, something inside her remained unchanged. She never lost sight of who she was. Fame can be intoxicating. Many people spend their entire lives chasing it. But Christy began asking herself deeper questions. What happens after success? What happens when the cameras stop flashing? What truly matters? These questions stayed with her throughout her career. Unlike many celebrities, she continued investing in her education. She wanted to understand the world beyond fashion. She wanted to grow as a person, not just as a public figure. The more she learned, the more she realized that life had much more to offer than fame. And eventually, life would present her with a challenge that changed everything. Years later, Christy became a mother. Like countless women around the world, she experienced pregnancy and childbirth. But during the birth of her child, she faced complications. Thankfully, she received excellent medical care. She recovered safely. Her baby was healthy. But the experience left a lasting impact. For the first time, she fully understood how vulnerable childbirth could be. Then she learned a heartbreaking reality. Around the world, thousands of women were dying during pregnancy and childbirth. Not because their conditions were impossible to treat, but because they lacked access to basic health care. Many lived in areas without trained doctors, without hospitals, without transportation, without options. For Christy, this realization was impossible to ignore. It changed the way she viewed the world, and it changed the direction of her life. Many people would have moved on. Christy didn't. Instead, she began learning everything she could about maternal health. She traveled. She listened to stories. She met families whose lives had been affected by preventable tragedies. And with every story she heard, her determination grew stronger. She realized she had something powerful, a voice, a platform, the ability to bring attention to an issue that desperately needed awareness. Eventually, she founded Every Mother Counts. Its mission was simple yet profound: to make pregnancy and childbirth safer for every mother, everywhere. This wasn't about publicity. This wasn't about improving her image. This was about helping people, real families, real lives. For most of her life, Christy had been celebrated for her beauty. Now she was being recognized for something much deeper: compassion, leadership, purpose. Her advocacy work touched communities around the world. She helped shine a light on a crisis that many people had never considered. And perhaps most importantly, she reminded people that fame can be used as a force for good. In a culture obsessed with attention and popularity, Christy demonstrated another path. One where influence becomes service. One where success becomes responsibility. One where achievement becomes impact. Today, Christy Turlington's legacy extends far beyond fashion. Yes, she remains one of the greatest supermodels of all time. Her photographs continue to inspire. Her runway appearances remain iconic. Her influence on fashion history is undeniable. But perhaps that isn't what makes her truly extraordinary. What makes her extraordinary is what she chose to do after reaching the top. She proved that success doesn't have to end with personal achievement. It can become the beginning of something bigger, something meaningful. When future generations look back at the golden age of supermodels, they will remember the beauty. They will remember the fashion. They will remember the glamour. But Christy Turlington's story offers something more. It reminds us that the most important journeys aren't always the ones that make us famous. Sometimes they're the ones that make us useful. The ones that allow us to help others. The ones that leave the world a little better than we found it. From a horse-loving girl in California to one of the world's most famous supermodels. And from a fashion icon to a humanitarian dedicated to saving lives. Christy Turlington's journey proves that true greatness isn't measured by how brightly you shine. It's measured by how many lives you illuminate along the way. And that is why her story continues to inspire millions around the world. Because in the end, beauty may capture attention, but purpose creates a legacy.